is Rose Spaziani, the New York City correspondent for the Copenhagen Voice, cphvoice.com. I'm here today at the Merrick train station on Long Island to talk to Dave Denenberg, the county legislator for the 19th district on Long Island, New York. And we're going to talk about his environmental record and how he sees the upcoming climate conference in Copenhagen in December. So here's Dave. So Dave, how have you worked to expand environmental awareness in your community on Long Island?
I'm the chair of the Planning, Development, and Environment Committee. We've worked to expand awareness by education and information that people know what ends up in the streets and in the storm drains end up in the bay. We're a beachfront community. We really want to protect our waterways. So anything that ends up in the street, from salt to dirt to fertilizer, ends up in our bays and really throws off the delicate ecosystem of the South Shore estuary, which really is what makes Long Island's beaches and commerce world famous. We also raise the awareness through environmental bond acts, where people have voted to bond money for environmental protection and for open space acquisition. We've turned a county that used to sell off open space to a county now that's protecting open space and that has millions of dollars, $150 million for environmental protection programs.
So given that people voted for these bonds, do you feel that the biggest challenge for community leaders like yourself in getting green legislation at the forefront of our priorities, do you think it's the constituents who don't think that there's a climate change issue? Do you think it's government?
No, I think that people are actually very smart and very environmentally aware. For example, just in the last 2 years, I did legislation on green buildings so that the building construction would promote green buildings or efficiencies. I also had plastic bag legislation, engine idling legislation, and the county of Nassau by 2012 will have 50% of its energy coming from renewable sources. And the public support of each of those legislation was almost unanimous. So people get it. They're with their leaders on promoting the environment. Being pro-environment, being green, is actually good for business, good for politics, and ultimately good for our future.
So you've been doing a lot in the community to raise awareness about environmental issues, but do you think that nationwide government is doing enough to green our cities and towns?
I think the government's doing more than it has before, but particularly over the last 8 years we weren't doing enough. The U.S. should realize that as a leader in high tech, green technology is really an expanding technology of the future. It's an expanding industry. It's an industry that this country shouldn't lag. We should be in the forefront, just like we were with computers, just like we are with communications. It's a business opportunity. Again, the people of this country want to protect the environment. They love each and every one of the legislations that I promoted. But at the same time, let's take solar energy, for example. I'm promoting this year green loans for those people that want to go with solar. The U.S. should not be importing solar panels or importing solar technology. We should be manufacturing solar technology right here. We should be number one. So ultimately, being green is good business, and green technology should go to the country that has always led in the next wave of technology, and that's right here in the United States. So I think we haven't taken full advantage of protecting the environment and the good business aspects and the good commercial aspects that will lead us to.
All right, and there's this UN climate conference coming up in December in Copenhagen. Government officials are going to be trying to hammer out an international climate treaty. How do you see this? Do you support a climate treaty being approved? And how do you think it would affect, in the long run, these local districts like your own?
Again, I do think that overall climate change, global climate change is the challenge of this generation, not next generation. We have to acknowledge that it is a problem that has to be dealt with. It's difficult when you talk about treaties because there's going to be emerging nations that obviously are going to be lagging in terms of environmental protection, and industrialized nations like ours that see the good that needs to come out of a global treaty, if you will. The U.S. should take a middle of the road. The U.S. should bring people together, knowing that any kind of treaty where we would limit global warming and limit those industries that really are diminishing our ozone layer, that's going to be good business for the United States, because the products that are going to be more energy efficient, the products that are going to be more environmentally sound, are eventually going to be products that are going to be manufactured here, because it's leading edge technology.
All right, thank you for joining me today, Dave.
Thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here. We're right here at Merrick Station, and we have trains coming over us that are electric cars, so no emissions.
Good for the environment. Okay, thank you.
Take care.